some words on improvisation. Now, I do not create this video right now because I'm particularly good at improvising. I also do not want to show what kind of benefits you gain from doing improvisational work. And I also do not think that you should necessarily do some kind of improvisational work, right? The reason why I'm creating this video though and recording it is because I feel very drawn to the work of improvisation and working with improvisational tasks, not only in my current practice of dance and acrobatics, but also in previous practices, like in bouldering and climbing, and also in skateboarding, very big in skateboarding. And I also think there are some very nice benefits of doing improvisational work. I still do not know exactly what kind of benefits they are, but the whole setting of improvisation suits me very much. And also in the work with my students, I noticed there is a big change in the way how they perceive their practice when they have indulged for a little while in improvisational tasks. Isolation, integration, improvisation. I'm very sure you heard of this thing before, and while there is definitely some truth behind this, many people then view improvisation as the highest form of movement and that you definitely have to go there, and if you can't do this, then you are not a mover or anything like this. And to be honest, I think this is not the case. Many people at first think about improvisation as something very abstract and out there, and you just do some freeform dancing and go with the flow and see what happens. And this could be a nice setting in an improvisational form, but I think there is more to it, and probably also a better approach to improvisation. Now, the way that I view improvisation, and it is a way that really helped me understand what this practice could potentially be, is number one, improvisation is definitely not limited to any kind of discipline, right? You can improvise in all sorts of settings and disciplines. You can improvise in music, and some forms of music use improvisation much more, for example in jazz. You can also improvise, or you need to improvise basically when you play a game of soccer, for example, or you're in a fight or something like this. There is constantly situations that you can predict, so you need to improvise with your reactions. Also, you can improvisation, for example, in cooking, let's say. You have some ingredients and you want to cook something, so on the spot you decide where you want to go. So, improvisation is not limited to any kind of discipline, and you can practice improvisation basically anywhere, and this is great. And I also view improvisation as a practice of life, because all the time we are faced by challenges that we can't predict, and we need to react in a certain way. And sometimes we react a little bit better, sometimes not so much. And improvisation as a metaphor allows me to practice this. Now also, I compare improvisation to paying attention to something, right? When I say to you right now, pay attention, your first question, and very valid question, should be to what? Pay attention to what? You need a setting, you need a frame, because you can pay attention to anything. You could pay attention to what you smell, to what you see. You can pay attention to certain details in a movement pattern or whatever. And improvisation is quite the same. You can improvise with everything, so if you really want to practice improvisation, you need to also make sure to understand how to set yourself frames in which you can improvise. Now let's take the example of my current practice, and let's say we play with acrobatics and some diving into the floor, meaning entering the floor and exiting the floor. And this is basically now the frame or the setting in which we try to improvise. We could simply now say, okay, now improvise and do whatever, and this would be maybe also a cool setting for you to simply open up and forget about techniques, and you just go there and play with the idea of getting from up to down and throwing some acrobatics here and there. And this could be nice. It's a very nice exploration. But you can also tackle this a little bit smarter, I think. So for example, by saying you limit your improvisation now only to, let's say, 2 moves that you can use. So maybe let's just say you can use a cartwheel and a roll and some variations of them, and you want to play with the idea of moving constantly up and down. So then you have a certain task and a certain framework that is still quite malleable, because you do not only say you have only this and only that, but there are some certain variations. So there is a fixed frame that is quite loose, so you can play a little bit, and then you know exactly what you can do. And then all of a sudden improvisation becomes much more tangible and not so abstract, because there is a task to it. Now, and improvisation for me, and I've learned this, is really about setting frames and trying to stay in this frame, at least for the period of this improvisation, and being aware when you leave this frame and trying to go back in again. So it's also quite like meditation in a way, where you try to sit there and you focus your attention on something, and you try to be aware of what you're thinking, of what you're sensing, and you try to catch yourself basically when you have thoughts or something, and you're simply aware of that. And then in improvisation, it could work exactly the same, that you set yourself a frame that you want to work in, practice in, and then you're aware when you leave this frame. And then it's completely up to you if you say, if you want to go back to this frame again, or if you want to open up a new frame maybe. Maybe you set the frame of saying, okay, now you can only use 3 movements, and you want to use them in a creative way. And then all of a sudden, after a few moments, you realize, wow, there's something else that is interesting right now. And now you have the decision, you can make this choice of saying, no, I've said this is my improvisation, or do I want to go elsewhere? And there is no right or wrong, at least in my understanding right now. It's just about what you want to do and what you basically allow yourself to do. We could now go much deeper into the topic of improvisation and say, for example, at a certain point when you've been playing with a certain frame for a little bit, you build habits, right? This is a very natural thing that we humans tend to do. We build habits, so we use those habits, and then you could argue if it's a good thing that we have all these habits that we can use in an improvisation, or if we should try to go deeper and get rid of these habits again and build even new ones, so on and so forth. There is a lot of stuff to discuss in improvisation, and I think this is very interesting, but this is not the point of this video. I just wanted to share this very simple thought of improvisation and paying attention, and basically creating your own frames in which you can explore. Many people, teachers and practitioners, also call their improvisation exploration in a way. And I think this is also a very valid term to use, that you explore a certain idea, right? So the next time you try to do some improvisational work, maybe this helps. I think very important to remember is number one, the comparison of improvisation and paying attention, that you need to direct your attention somewhere, you need to give your improvisation a certain frame. You decide how loose or how rigid this frame is, and if you can basically leave this frame within an improvisation or not. If you have any questions or observations or reflections or anything, then please do not hesitate to share. I would like very welcomely discuss with you.